So last night I watched the NBA draft. First and foremost, the NBA draft last night was a spectacular showcase from beginning to end. And it was different than other NBA drafts. And, there was no huge surprises or, you know, swapping picks or moving assets or, anything unusual like trading a superstar to another team to get the top pick or anything like that. Nothing out of the ordinary. It pretty much fell to plan like we all speculated, even going back to last year. But like I said, no huge surprises. But what I noticed in the NBA draft, it fell under the radar to a lot of people, particularly a lot of content creators, particularly on this platform. No one is really talking about this. Now, I've been talking about this on this very same channel. You can check out the videos. I have it documented. But I've said that the NBA is stealing a page or two from the NFL. Hell, not even a page or two, the whole script. And the one thing that the NBA is doing, similar to the NFL, particularly when it comes to their presentation of the NBA draft picks, and the future of the league moving forward, that in the NFL, draft picks, and I'm not talking about the number one draft pick, I'm talking about all draft picks, are valuable. They are important. They're the lifeblood of your franchise. And if you do not believe me, look at the LA Rams. The LA Rams mortgaged their whole entire future just to get a Super Bowl ring. And I remember Shannon Sharp saying this on Fox Sports 1. Hell, if you got to mortgage the future, mortgage the future. Sell all them picks. Them picks are not that important, yada, yada, yada. Look where the LA Rams at now. They're not the juggernaut like they once were when they won the title. And it's going to be a while for them to get back on feet and to get back on track, because they penalize you when you don't respect your draft picks. And that's what's going on in the NBA. The NBA, now more than ever, draft picks are important. They're not just giving away draft picks like a pack of Skittles. And I know a lot of people are going to say, what are you talking about? You have no idea what you're talking about, because in previous NBA drafts, everyone respects having the number one pick. People will move clouds from earth just to get the number one draft pick. What are you talking about? If there's a top pick, if someone has the number one draft pick, people will move heaven and earth just to get that number one draft pick if it's available. And I'm not talking about pick 1 through 5 in the NBA. I'm talking about picks entirely. I'm talking about the whole presentation. If you look at previous drafts 10 years ago, hell, even 5 years ago, let's just move. I know a lot of you guys, when I say 10 years ago, everyone got selective amnesia. They don't know what I'm talking about. Let's just take it 5 years ago when, super teams. Everyone trying to pair super teams with super teams, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to pair these these two max players on one team. And it was great visually. The super team era, it was great. A lot of eyeballs were into place, but there was a pro and there was a positive, and there's a huge negative if they would have continued on that pace, and it would have sunk a lot of franchises. Okay, if you look at the rules, how they're changed, how they're being conducted, you can't have two super. If you can have two, you can have two superstars, but you're not going to have the money to build a team around those two superstars because of the luxury tax. And there's a lot of franchises that are unwilling to pay luxury tax to keep 2 max contracts and build around it. Hell, even 3 max contracts. I mean, it's difficult to even get 3 max contracts on one team. All right? Look at the Boston Celtics. Since Tatum went down, they're getting rid of their players that if Tatum was still there, Boston would keep their team intact and say, okay, we'll pay the luxury tax because we got a certain percentage of a chance, because every percentage, is different from the spectrum. If you're looking at it from the Boston perspective, I'm pretty sure they're thinking it's very high. We have like a 90% chance of winning the title. If you look on the other side of the border, like myself and others, we may not, view that as a 90% chance. But anywho, if Tatum wasn't injured, they would have kept their team intact. But look at the maneuvering the Boston Celtics made. And this is under new ownership. Now, they say new ownership had just money to play with. Tatum's going to be out for a year. Are you willing to pay the luxury tax on a team that's probably going to get swept in the second round? Are you willing to fork over all those millions just to get beat in the second round of the playoffs? So look at what the Boston Celtics have done. They have pretty much those pieces that they were willing to pay extra for, like Porzingis and others, they have traded them to other teams. And they're trying to get below the salary cap. And hell, there was even talk that Jaylen Brown was possibly going to get traded. But you see how things have changed from the super team era to this current era. And it's also an indictment of how important these draft picks are. Now more than ever, you have to have someone in the front office that know what the hell they're doing when they're drafting a player, because that player is going to start working for their contract. They're going to have to insult that player into their plans, particularly if you want to look for a title or if you want this team to get better. No more, sitting around letting your top draft pick just sit around a year and put them in the classroom and let them play a couple of games and this, that, and the third until, you get all your pieces together. Those days are over with. You're plugging and playing. Look at Cooper Flagg. The Dallas Mavericks are trying to win a title. And they pick the best player that they feel like that's going to add to them winning a title. Kyrie Irving signed a 3-year contract. A lot of people thought that Kyrie Irving got shortchanged out of it. Whatever. They traded for Anthony Davis. They are in the mode of winning now because of the current structure of the NBA. It's going to be very difficult for teams to win multiple titles in this era. Unless you've been drafting like the Oklahoma City Thunder and Sam Presti. Look at that team. From top to bottom, those players were picked through the draft, via the draft. And I know they got a couple of free agents here and there, but Sam Presti is going to have to make a decision. You can't max all of these players out. So it's great that we're winning titles, but we better have a plan B because we're not going to be able to keep all these players. And trust me, there's a long line willing to give up a fortune for several of these players of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But this is the new era of the NBA. Draft picks are more valuable than ever. They build your roster, they build superstars, and you just can't just give them away willy-nilly for a bag of Skittles. Look what's going on with Houston. Houston literally gave up a player that they drafted to compete for titles, Dylan Brooks, for essentially Kevin Durant. That's basically what you have given. Now, they have given up other players, but you're basically giving up on a guy that you drafted that you felt like will be part of this team competing for titles, and Dylan Brooks for Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, 11 years ago, you will have to give up a king's ransom to give up Kevin Durant. So times are definitely changing. I don't think this is no longer the era of the super team era. This is no longer the era of player entitlement. This is no longer the era where families get to hold their franchises forever and ever and ever. Look at the Buss family. This is an era where, hey, you just can't just get your way. You just can't hold a franchise hostage. You just can't give away your future, your draft picks, just to satisfy a player or to satisfy an owner. So these are the times. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.